reviewing something a little different today. We are talking Robin of Sherwood, The Knights of the Apocalypse. And this is actually an audio drama based on the TV series Robin of Sherwood. Now, you may have heard me mention Robin of Sherwood on this channel because it is actually one of my favourite TV shows of all time. It was clearly a Robin Hood show that was made in the 80s. British, it ran for 3 seasons, and you actually had 2 different Robin Hoods in it. I've actually reviewed a few of the episodes, and it lasted 3 seasons but was cancelled after the end of the 3rd season due to some financial issues with the production company. So it kind of ended on a bit of a cliffhanger. Now, Richard Carpenter was the writer responsible for creating this, and he actually did try to kind of revive it a couple of different times, and he had wrote a couple of scripts. Now, there was a series of books that sort of took place after season 3. Personally speaking, I don't really like these novelizations or comic book adaptations that spin off or take place after a series, because to me, I always think it never really feels like the actual series because there's no budgetary restraints with just writing or drawing if you're a comic. So creators feel the need to spin off onto much more elaborate adventures because they're not restrained by budget. And to me, it never really feels like the actual series. I was a huge fan of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and they did their season 8, which was a comic book adaptation. I read a couple of which I just couldn't do it because it just didn't seem like the series, and it was like there was True Blood ones, and again, so I'm not a big fan of these kind of adaptations that spin out of TV shows and stuff. But this is kind of close enough for me where I feel it's almost like a true sequel. The script was written by Richard Carpenter. It was directed by someone who actually had directed episodes of the show. It's got all of the original cast, or the surviving cast, returning to their roles in this kind of audio drama, and it is very much paced and feels like an episode. So, what is the plot? So this takes place after the end of season 3. Now, in season 3, it kind of ended on a little bit of a cliffhanger where you had Marion actually join the church and become a nun. And that was the cliffhanger, effectively splitting up her relationship with Robin Hood. And they do address it in this audio drama. It's kind of just a line of dialogue, and basically it comes down to she changed her mind. But at least they addressed it. And in this particular kind of story, there has been an edict where I think the Pope has been excommunicated, and as such there can be no religious ceremonies, marriages, christenings, funerals even. So the church has been sidelined really in this sort of story. But we do have this group of knights called the Knights of the Apocalypse, which are an offshoot of the Knights Templar. But they may have some dark intent. And they're actually, their sort of leader, I suppose, is played by Anthony Stewart Head from Buffy the Vampire Slayer fame. And they seem to have an interest in the young lords within this kind of area of England, and they come in conflict with Robin Hood's father. So if you're not familiar with the show, there's actually 2 different Robin Hoods in Robin of Sherwood, and the later one, played by Jason Connery, it's actually called Robert of Huntingdon, and he took over the mantle from the original Robin Hood, but took his name. So in this continuity, he is Robin Hood as far as anyone is concerned, but his actual name is Robert of Huntingdon. His father is the Earl of Huntingdon, and he comes in conflict with the Knights of the Apocalypse. So it's up to Robin Hood and his followers to try and find out what is going on, rescue his father, and defeat these Knights of the Apocalypse. What will happen? You'll have to check out the radio drama or the audio drama. Now, I believe this was produced in a kind of crowdfunding way, and you know, it actually did some good because a lot of the profits they actually put towards various charities and stuff. So I would suggest checking it out, particularly if you are a Robin of Sherwood fan. Now, this being a audio drama, obviously we're lacking rather in visuals, so please excuse that in regards to this particular review. But let's break it down like I would do any other sort of review. What works in this audio drama's favour? Well, for one thing, having the original cast back is an absolute treat. This isn't going to be for new fans. This is really, I would say, for existing fans. I think it's a bit of a deep dive for anyone jumping into it unless you recently discovered the TV show. But this was made in 2016, so I think it was like 32 years after the TV show. So it's having all of this cast, and it is everyone, with the exception being Robert Addy, who sadly passed away, and he played Guy of Gisborne. But everyone else, you know, is there, and it's really that chemistry is there. I mean, Ray Winston's probably the name that has got the biggest out of this kind of group of actors, but he just, you know, fits right back into his Will Scarlet persona, like, you know, like an old comfortable slipper, I have to say. And the interplay between our cast and going back into these characters, it just feels like they've just gone straight back into it. And for me, the standouts are Ray Winston as Will Scarlet, Judy Trott as Mary, Nicholas Grace as the Sheriff of Nottingham. They, to me, were the sort of strongest. You know, you've got Mark Ryan, who played Nazir. Never really said much in the TV show. He actually has a little bit more to say here. So, you know, he's a little bit more involved. He would be quite difficult to otherwise adapt. But I think everyone does a good job. The interplay is, like I said, it has that humorous twist. Like there's an instance where there's like a turn of phrase, and Nazir's character, played by Mark Ryan, doesn't really understand it because he's not from England, and he doesn't understand the joke, and then Will Scarlet and Little John are just kind of laughing that he doesn't understand it. So it has these kind of little elements of humour. The interesting thing as well is it's paced like an episode. So there's no narration. It is just kind of like these characters almost like playing out the scenes just verbally rather than kind of acting them out. But in doing so, it is paced like the TV show. So what it does is that if you are familiar with the TV show, your mind is kind of casting the images, and you are imagining these characters doing as they're playing on screen, what's actually kind of going on. So I think it does a really good job of capturing, for the most part at least, maybe not completely, but for the most part, the essence of the original TV show, the pacing of the kind of the TV show. It very much feels like that, and even the actual story itself. And again, this is largely because obviously it has the same creative people behind it, but it feels like a story that would have taken place during this kind of TV show. So it is very, very much, I think it very much fits with the pre-established series that has come kind of before it. It does feel like a genuine continuation. And if you're a fan of the Robin of Sherwood show, again, you've got all the kind of the sound effects, the sounds of battles, horses galloping, musical swells, things like that. That really does kind of evoke your memories of that sort of TV show. So I thought it was very, very well produced. I mean, the audio is clear, and you can kind of understand the kind of the plots and stuff, and it's well made. It's well done. What doesn't work for me now? I'll be honest with you before I go into any critiques. This is the only ever kind of audio drama that I've ever listened to. So I don't know how it compares maybe to other audio kind of dramas. I have listened to audio books and things, but not an actual audio drama before. But to me, there was a couple of things that maybe, for me at least, made it feel a little bit different from the TV show, obviously aside of the fact there's no visuals here. Now, I guess it can't really be helped, but I found some of the dialogue a little bit basic in regards to, rather than it feel exactly like you're just watching an episode of the TV show but with no visuals, because it's made as an audio drama, some of the dialogue is made to be more descriptive. Now, it's a double-edged sword because it does help you kind of map what's going on. So people will say something, "Hey, Little John, look over there towards the castle." And so you can imagine Little John like looking over to the castle. But the downside is the dialogue seems a little bit hammy at times because it's being a little bit over descriptive. So that's the trade-off. I mean, it helps you kind of visualize the scene, but at the same time, I think it kind of doesn't sound particularly sophisticated. It sounds a little bit sort of on the basic side. They're almost a little bit childish at times, where it's kind of trying to describe things without having a narration. I wonder if it would have been better to have some type of narration. I don't know. I mean, I kind of quite liked it still, but the dialogue, as I say, it suffers a little bit because of this need to have, and I totally understand why they have to do it, but it just has a negative consequence where I feel some of the dialogue, it sounds different to if you watch the TV show, because, you know, the characters are having to somewhat describe things as the kind of the scenes go through. Let's talk about the music. So famously, Clannad did the music for the Robin of Sherwood TV show, and although they used the Robin of Sherwood, the Hooded Man's initial theme here, the music within the actual audio drama themselves, it doesn't sound like it's Clannad. It sounds like a cover band of Clannad, and I don't know if this is because they haven't got the rights to use anything other than the kind of the Hooded Man original sort of song, but it kind of sounds like a lounge band doing like their interpretation of the Clannad music, and it's similar, but because it isn't the same, it's a little bit distracting, and you're there listening to it, kind of going, that doesn't sound quite right to me. So although I wouldn't say the music is bad, it's a little distracting at times because it feels like kind of similar but not quite the same as Clannad. And I assume this is a rights issue, but I don't know. If it's the music was already made for the Robin of Sherwood TV show, I don't know how much of more of it, just use that existing music rather than create new ones maybe, but I don't know what the issue was with that, but I found it personally a little distracting. The only other thing I would say is the actual story itself. Now, again, this was written to be a revival feature-length episode or double episode of a potential fourth series of, Robin of Sherwood, and it has been tweaked and adapted to become this audio drama. Now, realistically, this is probably going to be the last time where you'll ever get something like this, where you have the original cast reprising their roles, and as such, it's a little, I don't know, maybe it's a little bit disappointing that this doesn't feel like it's capping off the series. It kind of just feels like another episode. In actual fact, I have to be honest, I think the actual story is kind of like a mismatch from the two episodes that have previously happened in the Robin of Sherwood TV show. Like, if you were to mix a story from the season 1 episode, those 7 Poor Knights from Acreage, with the Swords of Wayland episodes from season 2, and you kind of scrunch those two stories together, you pretty much get this story. So I didn't find the story, and again, this is written by the original creator, and it very much fits with the the previous TV shows, but it doesn't really feel like it's anything like special. It's not like a story which kind of caps off this Robin of Sherwood sort of run, if you like. it just kind of feels like another episode. You know, it's fine, that it works well, but I would have imagined, at least, you've got all these, you know, actors together reprising their roles for one last time. To me, it would have made a little bit more sense to sort of end the story, so to speak, or have it a little bit more of a substantial stakes or kind of like that, where you feel like this is a show that ends this kind of Robin of Sherwood story, and but instead it fits right in, but it just feels like, yep, this is your season 1 opener, and there's going to be other ones that will follow, and you know, that's not going to happen. Now there are obviously the books, but I assume maybe that's the why. Oh yeah, well, you can read the books and stuff, but like I said, I'm not going to read the books. So yeah, it feels a little bit underwhelming in a way, story-wise, purely, but it does feel very much still like it does belong at the same time. So there you go. The story, it's fine. It's just not anything, not anything great in regards to a particularly explosive narrative. Really, it's just kind of like somewhat more of the same, which is good, just not maybe the kind of the full stop under the series that maybe it could have needed. And obviously, one thing that can't be helped is obviously the fact that they've had to replace the actor that plays Guy of Gisborne. He does a good job, but he sounds significantly different from the actor that played him in the kind of the TV show. So this is an audio drama that I think is very much made for the fans, and it feels like a legitimate and genuine continuation from the story, and it fits right in with that series. Maybe it just doesn't kind of, you feel like it doesn't just put that full stop underneath. So anyway, have you heard it? Would you be interested? I think you can download it, but I've got the CD, but I don't think you can get that anymore. But I'll give it a 7 out of 10. I do think it's a very, very well done audio drama, and fits right at home with that the previously established series. There you go. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.